Hi, and welcome to MB Business Live with Wez Jones. I'm Charlotte Grant West. I'm editor of Modern Barber, and today Wez and I are going to be talking about owning your own barbershop and what he's learnt about setting up his own barbershop, the do's and the don'ts. And I'm really looking forward to quizzing Wez about parts of the process that took him by surprise and all the things that he wished he'd known before he took the plunge. So welcome, Wez.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Should be a very interesting chat.
Absolutely. Is it going to be kind of weird going back in time, as it were, to the beginning and kind of talking about all the ups and downs of opening your own shop?
Yeah, it's one of the things. I think once you take the plunge and open up your own shop and embark on something, I don't think a day goes by where you don't filter back to the start and try and remember how everything begun, because no matter how many years you do it, they're the most important times. They're the real sort of like testing grounds, the places where you make yourself and you find yourself, you find what works for you. So yeah, it's always nice to take a little step back into history.
Cool. So let's rewind right back to the beginning and kind of, when did you realize that you wanted your own barbershop? How long had you been working as a barber before that happened?
Well, it was a planned / unplanned thing. I started in a barbershop when I was 14, so I was relatively young. I knew what I wanted to do. I wasn't very academic, but I tried my hardest. And anyone who watches this who thinks, if they're in school or college and you aren't doing too well academic wise, push that as much as you can, because I'll get into it in a bit, but that would help me where I am now. Unfortunately, when I was in school, I wasn't very good at it, and I knew I wanted to cut hair. I was cutting my friends who I played football with. I was cutting their hair, trying anyway, doing a real bad job of it. And a local shop that I used to go into caught wind of me cutting my friend's hair, and they offered me a job as an apprentice. And to bring that into that question is, they always said to me, these guys who trained me, they always said, you have to be doing something 10 years before you open up a shop.
Okay.
And I personally think they just told me that because they didn't want me open up a shop local. But it was
the competition.
Yeah, it was drilled into me. And at the time, there was a lot of people opening up shops that had been doing it for 5 minutes. So I stuck to my guns and just cut hair, different shops. I've moved around a lot. I used to do this thing where I used to stay somewhere for relatively 2 years. And again, it was never planned, but I get to 2 years and think, what can I do next? I haven't got the money to open up my own shop. I don't want to yet because I've been doing it 10 years. And it just kind of went that. And I was moving shop to shop. And strangely enough, it become 10 years or just over. I think it was touching 11 years of me being in the industry. And I had no plans to open up a shop. I had no money, and without being too much of a sob story, I was renting rooms and didn't have a penny to my name. But someone, a very close friend of mine, saw what I wanted to do. I was always writing down ideas, jotting them down. At the time, people weren't taking, I'd say there weren't really, the whole social media thing hadn't kicked off. But even then, I was constantly taking photos of my work, even though I was in a in and out barbershop, 20 plus haircuts a day, average time 15 to 20 minutes on a haircut. So a long shot from where I am now. But even then, I was taking pictures of my work. I was trying to be as creative as I could. And I just thought, I'm going to keep doing this until, I'm either going to win the lottery and be able to open up my own shop, or one day, who knows, but I had no real, I couldn't see it in the near future of me opening up a shop. I didn't have the
ambition, or it was never kind of it was a dream, but not a realistic dream, would you say?
It was, in the sense of, I couldn't approach it. Like if you turn around and was like, here's a shop, like my life would have been made worthwhile. And that happened. My friend who'd been watching me from afar, he was one of my customers as well. He knew how hard I was working, how much I tried to do different things. He knew my ethic. And one day he was like, he basically just put it on me. He was like, if I ever come into a bit of money, do you fancy going to business with each other? And I was like, look, mate, like, I've got nothing to offer except my hands. All I've got is my hands and my heart, sort of thing, which was all I had. Like I had ambition and I had my trade, which I could do. And again, it was just a talking point. We sat down one day over a beer when I used to drink and wrote loads of stuff down, and we was like, it was that'd be nice. Like, yeah, but I personally was like, it's never going to happen. I'm just going to be doing this for the rest of my life. And then one day, it was really weird. I had a friend who owned a barbershop in Leon C, and he wanted to get out of the game. He messaged me and was like, oh, do you know anyone who wants to buy a shop? I was like, oh, mate, it's a shame. I was like, if I had the money, like I would. I was like, I'll keep an ear out for you. And about 5 minutes later, my friend, he messaged me. He was like, I think it's time we have a proper talk.
Oh
And
my
it was
gosh.
like, okay. And we sat down, and before the end of the night, between us three, we bought the shop off him.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
so again, like, this is why now it's like I have to take these steps back, because, like, it's a bit of a story is I did literally have nothing, and it was due to the belief and trust in someone else
Mm-hmm.
that I am where I am now. So to answer your question, there was no like
Light
there
bulb
was no
moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
it weren't like, oh, here's the time. So it was chance mixed with pure passion. I think I
Yeah.
was like, because it possibly could have been the worst time of my life to try and take on a venture like that. I said I was renting rooms. I was in debt. I didn't have a lot going for me, and I could have put myself in a much worse position. Could have put myself in debt, not only like existentially, but with a friend as well.
Yeah.
Which you never want to do. Like, and that's one thing I've always tried to keep clear with is like, don't work with friends or relatives or family,
Yeah.
because it can be very dangerous. But I was lucky. I
Yeah.
was lucky that it went really well. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. I've just been on a tangent.
Definitely. And you've kind of touched on the next question I was going to ask, which is what you need to consider before taking that leap. And you've kind of said, be careful who you work with. And if you do work with friends, I guess it's all about setting up boundaries, isn't it? And is there anything
Yeah,
else that you sort of considered before you took the risk? Because essentially it is a massive risk owning your own
yeah.
business.
It's a hard thing, and when I think back to it now, it's, you think to yourself like, what do you have to think about? What do you have to prepare yourself mentally for, and physically? And at the time, I was a 20, what was I, 23, I think, 23, 24. And someone turned around to me and went, I want to give you a shot.
Yeah.
So all of them things go out your head. Like, being completely honest, you don't think, right, okay, I've got to set this much money aside for this. I've got to think about, channeling all the different utilities and all this. Like, you don't think about it. You just think, oh my God, I've got a shot. Like, I'm going to be able to like put my name, but my creation, my stamp on
And
a
bring it
shop.
to life.
Yeah, because for years I'd been working for other people. I loved it, but it always got to a point where I lost control. Whereas in the sense of, I knew what I wanted to do, I knew how I wanted to help the shop, but because it wasn't my shop, I weren't able to do them things. And when you get given that control, everything else goes blurry. You're just like, right, I want to paint the walls this color, like, and you do forget. And it really takes someone like strong-willed to bring you down to earth and go, right, this is the pretty side of business. This is like, the colourful, like aesthetical side of business,
Yeah.
and this is the meat and potatoes. And you need someone to teach you about that. So to prepare yourself for it, to consider, what to consider. I think now, if I was to tell myself again, or tell anyone that's starting business, really consider not where you're starting, but where you want to end up. And not just in the sense of, right, I'm starting a business, I've got a bit of social media following, I want to end up on stage for whoever in 5 years. That's pretty shiny stuff. Think of, where do you want to be, home, where's your structure? Like, in 5 years' time, if you're starting with, argument's sake, 5 grand, do you want to be at 100 grand? Like, do you want to have 2 shops? Do you want to have 5 shops? I think they're the sort of things to try and consider, because if you just want it for a quick win, then it will go pretty quick.
Cool. And would you say that your business partner, is that correct terminology? Is it
Yeah,
your
yeah,
partner?
yeah.
Yeah. Are they kind of the behind the scenes, more the meat and potatoes, financial stuff?
Well, yeah. I
And is
mean,
that a great partnership to have?
yeah, it's everything's about balance, like in every walk of life. And so my my previous business partner was the guy I started up with. He's moved on to other ventures now, and he like we had a great. We're still really good friends now. And everything. The whole reasons why he got involved with me was to grow himself a little bit, to test his waters within business, to see how it works, investment. And he done it, and he got his return, which
Yeah.
is great for him because that was his sort of like turning point of I want to try something. Will it work? And it worked for him. And through that time, we was very much because we were friends. As much as he was figures, numbers, and financial, he got involved with everything. Like in the sense of not too much in the sense of creative control because he knew, I wouldn't walk into a CAD developers or a construction site and tell people where to put their diggers. So,
Yeah.
he wasn't going to walk in and go, right, you need your barbershop, your barber chairs here, you need that color. Have an input, of course, but then again, it's about, um, it's about working with each other and finding balance. But even my business partner now, I have a new business partner with a similar story to my previous business partner. He is very much behind the scenes and kind of lets me take the creative control side of it, but is always there for support. And I think anyone on the flip side who might be watching this who wants to invest in shops or invest in a franchise or whatever, that's a very important thing, is to not know your limits, but be aware of people's journeys, where they want to go, and letting them kind of take go off on a tangent, but have like one hand on their shoulder sort of thing, just to keep them safe.
And I guess you want to identify really early on what both of your strengths are if you're going to be working in a partnership, and have
Definitely.
the belief and confidence in the other partner that they can do their thing without being, you have
exactly
to check up on them or anything.
You have to let ego slide, like, because it's definitely a thing that can take over. If someone, if you've got two very big personalities going into a business together, and one of them thinks he's the dog stanglies at design, and the other one thinks he's the dog stanglies at figures and accounting, that's all well and good, but you have to put everything on the table and realize, like, okay, I think I'm good at this, but how's it balance against the other person? Like, it's a lot of putting everything on the table and not trying to claim too much.
And do you think you gave yourself enough time from deciding to open a business to actually opening the business? What's the timeline like?
I think for me, when we opened, I was still working somewhere, and again, it was literally the biggest shock ever. So I weren't expecting to get a shop. So when me and my friend and the previous business owner had a conversation, I think we had about 4 to 6 week turnaround, which is quite, I'd say it was quite a long time. However, it was a long time because I didn't really have to change much. It was already a barber shop. It already had it had chairs, silly things like that, and we didn't have any money to change it anyway. So we got the shop with every penny we had, and we didn't even have enough money to change the name of the shop. Like it was called, it was actually called Fleet Street Barbers, and we obviously called the Heartbreak Club. And I think it took us about 3-4 weeks to actually have enough money to just take the original vinyl off and put a new vinyl on. We had to print out on an A4 bit of paper saying we're the new owners, which was, it was very humbling, to say the least. But I think time is good. Sometimes you can have too much time. You can overthink things. I've redone that shop 3 times now, and time has been of the essence every time, because the first time we done a refit, we shut the shop for a week, and it was nowhere near long enough. The next time we done it, which is how it is now, like the next big refit, we were shut for 2 weeks, and we could have spent a month in there, like just looking at everything. And again, that's a refit. That's not completely opening up from the scratch. But I think to open up a shop from not even knowing you've got one to being in there, doors open, people coming in, I think you need a good couple months just to get everything on the dot, and know that the minute you open that door, you've got no worries. Because I done it the complete opposite way. I said I had about 4 to 6 weeks, but I was still cutting hair and like trying to get my head around everything. And I was lucky that my business partner was very good at negotiating things like your utilities, your electric,
project
gas
management kind of side of
yeah,
things.
he was just very good at that. And one of the things, or one of the reasons why, was he'd been brought up in an environment with his family where his dad run his houses, and he's very, very skilled on that. It's something you don't really learn in school. No one really teaches you. They don't say, right, okay, here's your gas, electric, your internet. Here's like a Go Compare website. Please go on them. Like they don't really tell you these
It's
things.
bonkers, isn't it? And
yeah,
even when you're specifically doing a barbering education, as I understand it, owning your own business, those kind of behind the scenes stuff isn't something that's taught either.
no, it's kind of, I understand it because there's initially a lot more important things to worry about. Yeah, especially when you're training in barbering or hairdressing or anything really, because they're not telling you to, or they shouldn't really be telling you to finish this course and then go open up a shop. So essentially it should, it should always be a small little criteria. Like something I'm starting, I think we spoke about before, in the near future, is just a little thing. I'll keep it under lids for now, but a little project just to help people with the little things that you don't get told. And again, this I don't think this is a sob story, but no, I've grown up in an environment where I've not been overly parented. Growing up, I grew up without a father. My mum was busy working, and she'd done everything she could for us. I respect every second of that. But there's little things when you grow up that you might learn off an uncle or a dad or a father figure, maybe a mother figure as well. And it comes to a point where, especially when you're opening up a shop or just getting a house or whatever, renting somewhere, there's so many things you don't know until you're in there. And it's like the little things, like, how many people have ever shown you how to bleed radiators? Like, silly things. I remember the first place I ever rented, I got in there, I didn't have a clue. And within a month, I had bills coming out my ears. I had a house that the heat wouldn't come on. I didn't know how to reset my boiler. And fair enough, they're quite, big things. But I think, especially when it comes to opening up a shop, there's some things that you should be told. Like, the simple stuff of call your electric and gas company, get your meter readings, like silly things like that. Some people rent places where that's all done for them. They just have to pay a solid rent, which is, I think, brilliant. I think if you can get that, love it, because I wish I had that.
So do you rent or own your barbershop premises?
I rent mine.
Yeah, but that's not included in all rent.
So my rent is literally rent, and then I do everything else, like absolutely everything else, which again, like, sometimes if you're a bit naive to it, you don't know these things. I got the shop, and me and my business partner, and it probably took us about 3 weeks to realize that we had to pay gas and electric. Just silly things.
One of those things that you're more focused on the branding and the image. It's natural to, as a creative, to want to get excited about that aspect of it.
Exactly.
But like lecky bill, snore.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like utilities, like chores, like of your upkeep and maintenance, they're not exciting. Then there's nothing fun about them. But when you start, this is how I kind of try and look at things, because I'm not that way programmed at all. But I don't find maths exciting, anything like that. But if I can work out, every year or whenever your contracts end, like for your gas, your electric, or whatever, if I can take the units or take the amounts I've been paying and then compare them and see how much I'll save, I find that really exciting, because that's giving you more money. It's giving your shop more money. So really, you need to find excitement from them sort of things, because it's very easy to be like, oh, that's no fun. I'll do that next week. Next thing you know, you've got a bill on your through your door saying, right, you're 5 months overdue, and you're like, where's that time gone? Time goes very quick, especially when you're having fun. Like, so if you're got a new shop, you got people working for you, you think everything's like exciting and fun. It doesn't take a minute, and next you know, you're 5 years down the line, and you're like, oh, I've not paid that in 6 months. It goes very.
So apart from bills, is there any other things that took you by surprise when you started running the Heartbreak Club Barbers?
Yeah, quite a lot, to be honest.
Nearly
Uh,
everything.
yeah, yeah, literally everything. Things like, so in my shop, we don't have a facility to do our laundry. Like, so we have to outsource that. You know, getting towels washed and dried every like couple days, you know, that could be 14, 15 quid a pop. Next thing you know, you've got a bill for 45 quid every single week to wash towels. You know, that is one thing massively to consider. And again, it's simple, like, especially for a hairdresser's or a salon, like you're going through so much laundry. Um, I mean, you look at the situation we're in now when we are working,
Yeah.
gowns, like, you know, I mean, we found a sort of an economical solution to what we were doing. We found a chemical spray which is not harmful, and we were spraying our gowns and then using disposable capes because we didn't want to just like use a lot of disposable capes and
Yeah.
add to, you know,
Yeah,
bloody global
environmental.
warming and all
Yeah.
that. But you know, it's silly things like if you haven't thought about it and you think, oh, I've got to take my towels
Yeah.
home to get clean.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you got someone moaning at you because you got 10 tons of hair in your washing machine. Like it's a silly little thing to consider. Is little things like that. You know, music rights. You know,
Yeah.
your PRSs, things like that. It's very easy to go into a shop, whack TV up, or put a music system in. Next thing you know, you're playing music and you get a bill come through, or someone calling you up saying, "Have you played your music rights or whatever they call it?" And you're like, "No, what's that?" Like,
Yeah.
never heard of it before. You wouldn't. They don't tell you that in music lessons in school.
And that's some of the surprising things. But what is the single best thing about owning your own barbershop?
Single best thing.
Mhm.
Um, I think this is going to sound a lot more depressing than what it actually is, but I think it's very hard to find them moments where you stand back and you go, "Oh, this is why I've done it,"
Yeah.
because things aren't easy owning a shop or running a shop, managing a shop, even if you don't own it. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of you know, situations you're put in that you don't want to be in. It's definitely a lot to take on, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It doesn't mean that it's not something you can enjoy. It's just you have to almost look
Okay.
for them moments. And I think, you know, it's the small things. Definitely the small things. If you sometimes we'll be in the shop, and you know it'll be a normal day. There's nothing special about it, and we just have a moment where every customer's talking to each other. The staff are all
Oh,
having a conversation, like where everyone's involved. And if you're just sat back and you're like, I've created somewhere where people are coming together, and you look around, and you know, especially in my shop, we have quite a variety of people, a big old range of people. So you know, got a guy who runs my shop called Lewis, who's our shop manager. We've got Georgie who works for me. Our custom bases from like skaters to lads who work in London. You know, we have artists, photography. Like, you know, every shop has it. Every shop has a range of people. And when you get all them people together and they're just in harmony, like just talking and talking, I love conversation. Hence why I originally wanted to be a barber. Um, and when you see them all together, it's just that moment where you sit back and you're like, this is why I've done it. Like, this
yeah.
is like just a bit of a self-righteous moment.
Yeah.
But
You
it's just,
deserve
yeah,
it. You soak it up because you can
yeah, it's
just
just,
kind of
yeah.
survey your empire and be like, I created a community. It must be very
It,
cool.
it's exactly that. And it is the really small things. It is the, you know, especially on a more individual sort of level, you know, for myself, when I've worked for my shop, I took my shop to shows. You know, we've been as a collective on stage. Like, that's obviously a very proud moment. We've been in amazing magazines. You know, where we wink wink, where we've done some really cool things, and that's all great. Like, that's amazing. Like, and you can get a real sense of fulfillment from that. But it's, you know, when someone brings their kid in for their first haircut, you know, and you're standing back and you're watching one of your staff members do it, and they're happy about doing it. It's little things like that. The Google reviews, the old boy who lives down the road who walks past. I tell this story every time. We used to have a guy who came in every week, didn't have an haircut. He's an old Scottish boy, and he brought us cakes in every Saturday. Every single Saturday. And unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. But that, when you stand back and you're like, I've created somewhere where someone who, not that they shouldn't feel comfortable, but someone who's not visually linked with our shop. Our shop's quite not in your face, but you wouldn't expect a senior citizen to want to come in. You wouldn't expect a newborn baby to want to come in. It is quite garish. So when you get our clientele of 80 plus love coming in the shop and having a conversation, that's quite a nice moment, because I come from that. I come from old boy barbershop, so I come from stories and talking to people. And when you get people like that come into your shop, you're like, no matter what you've done with it, how you've styled it or redesigned it, if you still got that, it's a real, it gives you a nice warm fuzzy feeling.
Oh, that sounds lovely. I love the story of the old boy and the cake. Bless him. What a legend.
Sam. He was great. He was the maddest bastard ever, but he was brilliant. He's about 6'3". I think he died in his 90s. He come in, he'd slag the whole country off, and then be like, oh, here you go, here's your Belgian buns.
Cake.
Yeah. He was brilliant.
And onto a completely different topic. Are there any resources that you found helpful for getting information and advice? Do you have a financial advisor? Do you go on the government website? Do you find friends and family who have owned businesses before are really helpful and want to give you tips?
Yeah, there's obviously a wide range of resources. Personally, from beginning to where I'm now, there's been all sorts of different. I've asked friends. Initially, the biggest amount of information I got was actually from Frank Reimer, which a bit of a name drop, but with Frank, he I went up to London, never met him before. I just got told we were getting the shop, and I was like, oh gosh, I wasn't even meant to be able. I was going to see a band play, and I went in to see him. I'd seen him online and things like that, and I just thought, I'm going to ask him a few questions. He might tell me to F off, I don't know. And I went down to Dye Barber, and I just said, pulled him to one side, and he weren't cutting. I was like, look, mate, I hope you don't mind me saying hello. I was like, a fan of your work. I've seen you guys online. I've just got the keys to my own shop, and I just wanted to pick your brains on a few things. And that's quite an intimidating question to ask. Some people don't want to share information. Mm-hmm. Some people, might find that quite upfront. But I was just like, at the time, I didn't have a lot of people to turn to, because I wasn't that style. I wasn't that type of barber. I wasn't within barber shop socials. I wasn't in any circles. I didn't know certain things even existed. All I knew was the magazines that got put in the side of the shop, and my customers that come in, and the shop down the road. I didn't really know anything else. And it was only through doing a bit of hunting I saw Frank, and I was like, oh god, this shop's amazing. They've really got. It looks like they've got a brilliant culture to them, a good subframe sort of thing. And he was like, oh, you're right, mate. Nice to meet you. He was like, do you want to drink? We'll have a catch up. And that was it. He sat me down. We were talking. Within 5 minutes, we hit it off, and we're really good friends now. And he has, for a long time, been a good source of information for me. And back now, I'm a little bit more cultured in the barbershop region. He asked me questions, and it is, mm-hmm. I think, just that's been the biggest source. I think just asking people in similar situations to yourself. Don't take it as gospel, because people are in very different circumstances, but find out as much information as you can through real people is a big thing. But having said that, real people don't have a qualification in accountants if they're a barber or own barbershop. So having a good accountant. My accountant's worked wonders for me. He's really honest with me. The first day I met him, I said, look, mate, treat me like an idiot, because I have no idea what I'm doing. And it's the best thing I could have said, because he talks to me like I'm a 4-year-old, but he's very, gives me a lot of information. People like trying to find someone in your local council who, can be of help, just really butter them up. Like, sounds a bit not like snaky, but like, if you
Buy them
know
some
someone
cake.
in your local council, all them little things help, keeping your local community, like together as well, people up and down your road, make friends with them, because,
Yeah. They're
there's
business
some
owners
people,
too, and
they might have inside information that you
yeah,
don't know. Like, if you live in or if you work in a terraced area,
yeah,
and someone 4 doors down knows that the landlord for all of it wants to demolish the buildings, like, if he knows you, he's going to tell you earlier on. It's just little connections, I
yeah.
think, are really good. But yeah, obviously Gov UK is really good. The National Hair and Beauty Federation, they always give out good information. Yourselves, obviously, all the magazines like are very good at keeping people up to date. It
I
just,
know you love a shout out on Facebook as well.
yeah,
Do you?
yeah, of course.
Can anyone help with this?
Yeah, right. So yeah, that's my absolute pet peeve. Not pet peeve. Yeah, everyone else's pet peeve, not mine.
Yeah.
So I use Facebook like I've got someone sitting next to me, like,
Yeah.
because especially for, domestic stuff, if you want things done around your shop, or you just want to, I use it for everything. Like, I won't
Yeah.
lie. I literally, if I get a thought in my head, I'm like, right, Facebook. Does anyone know a dog groomer? Like, just little things, because especially if I can't think of someone firsthand, like if I've got, I need plumbing done. If I don't know anyone off my friends list firsthand that does plumbing, I'm going on Facebook, because 9 times out of 10 there might be someone that I've met a few times. I won't say that like friends, but associates, that sort of thing. I'd rather give him money than go on Google and type in plumber. As long as as long as you can weigh everything up, like, you don't want, as much as you want to help friends out, there's a thing with friends, like, doing stuff for haircuts, which, is definitely like another form of currency of ours.
Mhm.
But it's all well and good. But if you're, offering your services for someone else's services, it might not be as quick. I've had friends do amazing work for me, like digital work or design work, but it might take a couple of months because the other work they're getting paid for.
Yeah,
The work
that's a good
they're
thing to
giving
bear
me,
in mind. Yeah.
it's a very, it's obviously nice to, chop and trade, like, I don't know what you'd call it, like our items of work.
Yeah.
It's a nice thing. It's very old fashioned. Yeah, back in the old days where if you was a blacksmith, you'd swap your blacksmith work for the local butcher or something. I like that style of working. But unfortunately, this is 2021, and we do need things done quick. And sometimes you've got to cheat your friends a little bit to get stuff done.
So kind of speaking of getting advice and info, we've had some questions through.
Okay.
So I will hit you with them now. So this question has been submitted by Beth, and she asked, would you recommend getting a business partner?
Interesting. Curveball, because yes, if you can throw your hands up and honestly think you need support, both mentally and with the business, because one, it's a massive mental like thing to take on, because it's not just numbers, it's team managing, people managing. There's a lot of things you come up against that you would never in your wildest dreams think you'd come up against, and if you haven't got something to bounce it off of, it's quite hard. But if you are, if you're confident, and depend on the type of business you want to open up, if you've got a small business, one-man team, or you've got a smaller team, you might want to do it yourself. That way you've got full control over everything you do, and you might have a good social circle, which is a big thing. If you've got support around you in the sense of family, friends, people in businesses similar, then there's no reason why you can't do it on your own. Just bear in mind, when things do get a bit tough, it's not the responsibility of someone else to take on them things as well. As much as everyone wants to help you out, a lot of people got their own thing going on. So sometimes it is better to not just have someone take on like your baggage with a business, but to actually have a business partner as well, because it does soften the blow of a lot of things. But I think that's entirely sort of purpose built to what you want to create. if you want to create something that is big, like, couple of shops, that sort of thing, it's possible. It's possible to do it on your own, but you can't be in two places at one time. So that like then you're going down the route of shop managers. So you might not want a business partner. You might want to put someone in charge, give them a better wage packet, a better commission, however you work, and they're someone that you can bounce off of. That's very good. Like that's essentially what we do. Like I've got a business partner who's very much in the back, but I've got my shop manager in the form of Lewis, and I'll ask him everything, almost as if he is my business partner. And that's good because, like, no offense to Lewis, he can give me his information back, but because he's not a shareholder in the business, I don't have to take it as gospel and do what I'm told, sort of thing. But it's very helpful to have as many of them sort of people around.
And I imagine this is kind of coming onto a question I was going to ask. That's been really helpful during the pandemic, and particularly tough times for you as an owner dealing with the stress of a business.
Yeah, it's been hard with the pandemic and everything. Sorry, was the question how have I been dealing with it?
It was going to be one of my questions, but I was just sort of tagging it along to one of the viewer questions about the way that your particular business has been set up with the partner and a manager.
Sure, yeah.
Has that alleviated some of the pressure, do you think?
It has, I think, in the sense of, especially when it got to the point of when we come to closing, I needed to arrange the shop so it was safe for when people come back, or just to leave the shop on its own, which is a big thing. Shop security in these times. Unfortunately, there's a lot of desperate people out there, people breaking into shops. But yeah, my business partner and all my staff, like Georgie as well, we were there all together, dispersing the shop, getting all the important stuff out of the shop. So that side of it really helped. Like, my shop manager, he is self-employed. So, at that point of us shutting down, he wasn't, I don't know what the word is. It wasn't his sole duty to help me with the business. Which is one thing to consider, because, a lot of people are self-employed. Like, I'm sure everyone wants to be a nice guy, but if they've got to look after their own worlds as well, their home life, etc., when it gets to a point of the shop shutting down, they've got to look after themselves.
They're not legally entitled to.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not their responsibility to then help me with the shop. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure if I asked Lou that, can you help research some stuff for me, he would in like an instant. But that's just one thing to consider. If you're working someone, you have someone work for you that's employed, different story. That if that's one of their roles, as long as you haven't furloughed them and asking them to work, which I've heard a lot of people do, which I think is absolutely disgusting, to be honest. Like, the personal thing. I just think if you're furloughing someone, don't ask them to work, like, because it's kind of cheating. But I think it definitely helps. I think like, my business partner, he's been very good as well with conversations, and I think sometimes it's just support. The government are there at the minute to support everyone, whether, no matter what you think of them, they're doing what they can. We're getting our grants, etc. You can't really do much more than that. I don't think anyone would want to be in their position, and they're doing what they can. So as long as you can split up your levels of concern. So if it's financial, look to the government. How are they going to help you? If you need support in your psyche, your mental, look for friends and family around you. Talk to anyone. Like, if you're unfortunate and you haven't got friends and family around you, there's really good companies out there, Samaritans, etc., that you can talk to. And then if it's just plans going forward, like, if you really wanted to do something this year and you're not been able to do it with your business, put it down on the table, write everything down, put it on post-it notes, and then start to eliminate things that you think weren't necessary and start replacing them for things that you want to do for next year. But in the same sense of, my business partner, for all the plans we had this year, I have conversations with him regularly just to give me a bit of confidence for coming back. I think it's definitely helped, get rid of a little bit of stress being with people.
That sounds like a really measured way of dealing with stress, the kind of segregating the three different things. I really like that. I'm going to take that tip. I've got another viewer question, which is all about growing and promoting a customer base. So Lloyd asks, when opening a shop, what suggestions do you have for promoting your shop and growing its customer base?
I think depending on where you are, obviously take social media out of the equation, which is, I know it's quite a big
Bold
thing
statement.
to say.
Yeah,
I think for the first, I mean, again, it's a time scale thing. For the first couple of weeks, you want to get your ear to the ground and you want to be every person that walks past, giving them a leaflet. Go old school, like get up and down the road, leaflets.
Face-to-face contact. Do you kind of encourage, when we can?
It's the homework as well of like before you open. That's the thing. Before you open, you should already have done all of this. Like before you open, looking at the area, like you can go on the census to see how many men live in that area. If you're a barber, you can see how many men live in that area. You can actually see whereabouts they live as well, which is creepy. Looking at your local businesses that promote male male customers, so like gyms, restaurants, like there's so many things, local football teams, looking at these sort of people, getting in touch with some of them, trying to work out regular like local deals. If you've got a local burger joint, say, look, can I give you some flyers, and if anyone comes in, then I'll give you 5% of their money, that sort of thing. It's building your local first. If you're somewhere like London, it's a little bit more difficult because you can get anywhere in London in however long. If you're somewhere a bit more rural, like for us, we aren't on a footfall, we are on a road. So people drive past us, and we're very fortunate. We've got a traffic light outside the front of the shop. 9 times out of 10, people stop there. So our big thing, like when I got the shop, was like, right, how can I draw attention to my shop, which is in other sense like quite a boring road. So I was parking my motorbike outside the front of it every day. That was my open sign. Couldn't afford one, but I could afford a motorbike. Stupid. That was my baby. Like even when I was poor, I won't get rid of my motorbike. And that was my way to draw attention to the shop. I completely understand. Not everyone's got a motorbike, but think
the way
outside the box.
Branding is, and the exterior of your shop is pretty eye-catching, right?
Yeah, especially now, like we've done the shop up, we've got neons and things like that. It looks like a little rave going on in there.
Yeah.
But there's so many little things you can do before you actually hit up social media. I said that one of them things is just literally grabbing the ears of people. Go down your local high street if you've got one. Make a thought process in your head. Right, how much have I got to earn this week?
Yeah.
How many haircuts can I give away? Like it's like anything. If you've got a clothing brand, how many t-shirts can you give away and you still bring yourself square or level without making everything damaging? If you can get away with 23 haircuts in a week, get 20 vouchers for free haircuts. Go down your local high street, give people free haircuts. But there's a very thin line actually between giving people something that they want to come to you for and making yourself cheap. Like you don't want to cheapen yourself. If you believe in your work and believe in your quality, then prove it. Like don't just be dropping prices everywhere. You see some shops like for a solid week they give out free haircuts, and I'm like, that's bold. That's very bold. But I think it's just finding a balance again, like using your savvy, and this is obviously where social media does come in, because once you're up and running, you need people. I believe you need something to build off of to grow a social media. You can take a picture of one person getting a haircut, but you want to really make your shop inviting. So you want a few people in your shop, you want some smiles, you want a little bit of people talking about it, and you can manipulate that. You can use friends, you can use your customers that you've got. Do like a fun evening, 5 till 7, free haircuts. Like you might get 2 haircuts in there or something, but if you've got a few people in the shop and you're not that busy at the time, get a few pictures. That's where you go to social media, and you can look, sounds dreadful, you can look busier than what you are, but if that's not for other barbers and that's not for people in the industry, that's for the customers for them to see that, oh, you've got people in your shop, they look happy.
Yeah.
Oh, it might be right then. It's a lot of psychology involved with branding and using the medias to build a brand, I think.
And how long did it take you to get that kind of regular customer base going, would you say?
Again, it was kind of hard because it was already a barbershop. That's one
People
of the
knew it as a destination.
Yeah, but it was a very, very, very different barbershop. So we went in and changed everything, changed the price scheme. We changed the way things were done. We went to appointments before. The person who had it was, solely sitting and walking barbershop.
Did that change the clientele?
Massively.
Some of them come back?
Massively changed it. And at one point, I thought I'd done the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I went in. It was terrifying because I was on my own. I was on my own, and it was a case of going in there and basically telling all the customers that were still going there to the same shop with the same pictures on the wall, the same vinyl on the front of the window. I hadn't changed anything.
I can picture it exactly.
Yeah,
what it looked
literally,
like.
them same people walking in and me going, right, you was here 3 weeks ago and you paid £12. Now you're going to pay 20, and the only thing that's different is me. And you can imagine, obviously I wouldn't exactly say it like that to people. Then you have to back it up. You have to tell people why you are a certain amount of money, like what your plans are, and you're going to lose people. And I think that's a very hard thing for people to take in. When they start losing people, they think that they're going the wrong way,
and they panic.
They really panic. Like, oh God, maybe we should go cheaper. Maybe we should be nice to the customers. Maybe there's so many variables in keeping people. Hence, no company in the world is perfect. Like, you can go on what you deem as the most socially acceptable company ever. I don't know, Tesla or something like that. They're doing everything for the environment. Things like, you can go on their Google reviews. There's still going to be 50 arse clowns go, oh, these guys are horrible or whatever. It's not for me. That's fine. It is just a very good mental state to remember. You're not for everyone, and that's absolutely fine.
Can't be all things to all men.
No, and that's it's hard to get to that point where you're like, yes, absolutely fine. And it's just as long as you don't go beyond that point and go, whatever, we don't care, because you have to care. You have to care about people because they are the ones sitting in the chair. So it's just knowing, don't drive yourself nuts with it. But if you feel like you haven't seen anyone for a while, don't just sit there at night going, oh, I've not seen him in ages. Like, he must be going somewhere else. He'll probably have a reason, right? And then it's just, trying to work out, look at yourself, go, are we doing good haircuts? Yes. Are we charging a fair amount? Yes. And just realizing your qualities and realizing you haven't actually done anything wrong. That person might be in a different situation. They might have moved. They might have found somewhere a little bit closer. Their friend might have referred them and got a cheaper haircut. You don't know. But it is just about, finding that contentment of slowly building up. But you do lose people, and it is hard. It's just, again, just keeping that machine rolling. And you have to go in with a very strong mentality, because it's like animals in the wild. If they see your weakness and they see you limping, they're going to attack you. And you can't put yourself in that position. I've had quite a lot of calls and chats regarding attitude and personality when it comes to setting up anything. I'm starting to, as I get older, I've started to venture out from just barbering, and do a few different things. I've started learning photography. I've done clothing brands, things like this. And with everything I start up, I have this, I wouldn't say it's a nice attitude, but I get into what I call the boxing mentality of, you have to just go in all guns blazing in the sense of confidence for yourself. You ask any boxer in the world, is someone going to beat you? They're going to say no. And you have to, I personally, this is how I work, because it doesn't work for everyone. I have to be like that. I can't sit back and be negative about it. If, the first 6 months of me opening up my shop, you constantly had people saying, oh, is this going to work? Right? And you'd have customers sit in the chair that again have been previous to this other barbershop, and they're sitting down. Now they're paying double what they were paying. and they're like, "Oh, well, you've been busy." Like, they're not asking; they're telling you. They're telling you that they know that you're not, and that's like, again, you might be overthinking it, but you can tell these things.
Yeah.
And at that point, you don't go, "Oh, you know what? It's actually been really quiet." You have to give yourself a kick up the arse and go, "Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah, we're doing well." Like,
Believe your
slowly
own
but
hype.
surely. Yeah, it's exactly that. Which, again, as long as you don't get a massive ego with it, like you need a little bit, you need a little bit of ego. Like, a lot of people say F egos or whatever, but that's fine. But you still need that little devil on your shoulder going, "Come, mate, you can do this." I think it helps. It's just a little bit of confidence. Like, and as long as you don't as long as you don't use it for the wrong reasons and get ahead of yourself and get cocky and things like that, then there's no reason why you can't just, give yourself a pat on the chest and be like, "Right, come on, like, we're doing good." You need that, I think.
Changing topic completely. Got another viewer question. What made you name the Heartbreak Club Barbers the Heartbreak Club Barbers?
Well, so when we sat down to open up the shop, me and my business partner, we sat there and we're like, right, what were some things we love? And we had a very, very weird split down the middle, because my business partner he is a very different world to me, like, likes very different things. And the one thing we had in common was both had bikes, both had motorbikes, and we both liked Elvis. Um, and my favorite song of all time is "The Heartbreak Hotel" by Elvis. And I was thinking of all these different ways to call it, Presley's, or there was so many little things. I never wanted it to be a Wez Jones of Leon C, or like his second name is Murray. I didn't want it to be like Jones and Murray. Like, I think that's great and it works for a certain type of shop.
Yeah.
For what I wanted to create, it didn't.
I can imagine Jones and Murray being very old school,
Yeah,
smelling of sort of teak and Old Spice.
Like Old Spice, Bay Rum, that sort of thing. Which is, it's great. It definitely has a position.
Yeah.
It just weren't where we were at the time. And the other thing with him is, I kept on saying, I don't want to call it a barbershop. Like, I don't want it to just be another barbershop down the road. I was like, what can I do? And like, all I knew was that I wanted to be part of something, even though it was us creating it. I wanted to be part of something as well, like, and people to feel part of it. And that's where the club thing come in, right? And we were just sitting there, and I was like, "What about the Heartbreak Club?" And he was like, "Yeah, I quite like it. I'm not really keen on it, but it's all right." Like, and he didn't like it. And then we went back to the drawing board, and I think we were sitting in the shop one day, and it was like, just started playing. I was like, "Man, it's got to be it." And it was, it was a number of things as well, like personal things, like they're all like evolved around the heartbreak thing, and then like the whole, the fact that it's a place where blokes would go and come as a commute and like sit down and talk, and it did make me think of like being back in the old school barbershops of sitting there, and a bloke would be telling his barber his deepest secrets, how his missus has done the dirty on him, or how he's been sodded over at work. And it'd be the barber's job to then talk to that person and try and give them up the spirits. And you put a few of them in a room, and you have got a Heartbreak Club. So that I was like, what? We sat down. I was like, I've got to do it. And he's like, yeah, fine. And it just went on from there. But I think that's definitely something that's a lot of people cottoned on to. I don't want to say we were the first, but there's at the time I couldn't find anyone with club in their name. And then, so
you're an early adopter.
Slightly responsible, but no. It just felt right. It felt like we could create something that people could then become part of, and this whole welcome to the club thing. It's just, I think there's nothing. I think for men especially, and obviously women, just talking from a personal point because I'm a man, like, being in a club and being part of something is it's a feeling that can't be replaced. And a lot of men are struggling right now with not playing football, not playing Sunday league or five-a-side of an evening, or not going to their darts clubs or whatever they want to do. Their thing where they're blokes together, attitude, personalities all put in a thing. They're letting off a lot of adrenaline and a lot of a lot of good vibes, and I see there's not a lot of them at the minute. So I like to think that, when this is all over, I really want to enhance the whole club vibe of the shop and let everyone know they are welcome to it.
Yeah, I like the idea of a club because it's community focused at the same time that if you're in it, it kind of feels like exclusive. So it's got that nice kind of dichotomy, right?
Definitely. No, definitely.
One more final question before we wrap up. Would you want to expand the business and get another shop elsewhere?
Well, well.
Ooh.
There have been multiple plans for different shops, more shops, and we have tried, I'd say 3-4 times to get more shops, and something like COVID has always come in the way. Once we had a shop, once in Southend, which was a little bit further down, and it was going to be amazing. It was like a nice 3-story thing. And the day we went to pick the keys up, the landlord turned around and said that he didn't want us to open because he didn't want another barbershop. His cousin owned a hairdresser's, and that was the only only conflict. But the day we was going to pick the keys up, so that was one.
Then that's heartbreaking.
It was say the name. At the time, it done us a favour because this was only a year in, so it was quite premature. Okay. We had, this is still on the cards. Where again, it's going to be completely dependent on the future. If it doesn't happen, it's not the biggest thing in the world, but it could be quite cool. We're meant to be opening up a side venture in Newmarket, Harley Davidson. Just a little one-man barbershop in there for myself. But again, that was going through just before the first lockdown. So that that was going to be a little bit of fun, a little bit of a side presence for the shop, and that was going to be in the name of my sort of junior brand, Pistons and Partings, which is my other clothing brand. But there is definitely, if everything goes to plan and the world goes back to some sort of normality within the next couple of years, there's definitely going to be more Heartbreak clubs.
Amazing.
Yeah, but who knows where? if you fancy one, get in touch.
And that is a perfect note to end what has been a really fascinating talk, and I've really enjoyed, and I think everyone else has listening as well by the amount of questions that we've got. Just given such measured advice and been really honest about any weaknesses or areas where you were like, oh, that was scary, and I really appreciate that. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. If anyone wants to know anything more, please get in touch.
Yeah, I might forward some of these questions because they're clogging up my inbox now.
I can't see them, so I'm scared now.
I'll send them over to you. Lovely to see you, Wez.
You too.
Bye. Take care. Bye.
Bye.